Hello and welcome back. This is a short video about a questionable hack, which means removing the resonance chamber. To be or not to be? So now I've removed the tank as well as the airbox, and I did so again. I've done it before. It takes some time. It's a bit of a fiddle to get it out. And I did it for two reasons. One of the reasons was to actually remove this plastic thingy, which sits underneath here. And it's a resonance chamber. So it's just empty spaces. And apparently this is important for the pressure and vacuum that is created inside the airbox when the valves open and close to the cylinder. So you get this rhythm, and this is supposed to help to sort of level out the flow. And it might also lower the intake noise when you gun the engine, the brop. If you wish to have a higher airflow and put on something that has a larger opening than the original one, then the resonance chamber becomes completely useless, it's pointless. I'm not entirely sure whether it is a good or bad thing. I do know that we shave off a couple of grams by removing it. And I have a mapping now, a remapping of the ECU, which is programmed to have a more open air flow into the engine. And according to the people behind this remap, the resonance chamber is completely redundant when you're using this mapping. So I decided to remove it, and I will then replace the original plastic air intake ducts for carbon fiber ones. But I will stick to the same shape because I like it. I think these ones look better in the lines with the bike. But it won't have any inside. So there's a inside plate which looks like this, and this one also, this hole here is which attached to the resonance chamber, and again this becomes pointless, so I'm going to remove this, which will mean that if I put this on, it will simply suck air through the frame basically, so it's going to be a more open airflow anyway. What the remap also required was to unplug the lambda sensors, these oxygen sensors, which are stuck into the exhaust system. So they needed to go. Well, I didn't have to remove them because I just needed to unplug them. But for me, if something is unnecessary on the bike, it's not staying. It's going to end up on the shelf, definitely. So this has been removed, both of them. And the front one was a little bit trickier. So in order to get to that plug, I needed to remove the tank and the airbox. As I did, I also decided to actually grease up the throttle cable while at it. I also noticed that during the service, the technician had put these fuel hoses in the wrong position. So there was actually a kink on this one, which may or may not have restricted the fuel flow. I don't think it was a big issue, but I'm going to rectify it and put them in the right position, which is not absolutely obvious because you might think there would be some kind of left and right indication, but it's not. For the fuel flow, it doesn't matter whether you put them in the front attachment or the rear attachment, doesn't matter really. Except that you want to have the fuel hoses as smooth as possible, because the fuel is being pumped in through one, and then it will be taken here into the fuel injectors, the rear cylinder, and then over here to the front cylinder. And any excess fuel will simply be pushed back into the tank through this one, or the other way around. So then it was just to put the airbox back and then the tank on top of that. And if you have never done this before, I strongly recommend that you do take a good look at how the cooling hoses and all the cables are pulled around the airbox. When you're removing the airbox from the engine, you should be aware that you're also removing the throttle body with it. So you're not unbolting those two from each other. And the throttle body is attached to the engine with two hose clamps, two big ones.
And when you loosen them up properly, that's when you can pull the whole package out. A piece of advice is that once you've taken this out, that you immediately cover the air intakes to the engines with some non-lint cloth. And you can use the hose clamps to hold it in place. Again, removing the resonance chamber is not really necessary unless you decide to remap the engine for larger air intakes. That's all for now, folks. Stay tuned for the next video where I'm chasing more grams.